God wasn't in Guillaume Bignon's plans. He was perfectly happy as a successful software engineer, musician, and volleyball player. Yet a chance encounter with a beautiful woman changed the way he thought about his life and his beliefs forever.
I wasn't seeking for God. I hated God and I hated religion. And God in His grace has went to all these lengths to bring the gospel to me, to change my heart and break down all my defenses and make me embrace the gospel.
In his book, Confessions of a French Atheist, Guillaume details his conversion from hostile atheist to Christian theologian.
All right. Well, Guillaume Bignon, did I say it right?
Yes, wonderful.
Yay, Guillaume. Welcome to 700 Club Interactive. We're so happy to have you in person.
Yes, I'm excited and feel special. This is one of the first returns in person, so I feel special.
Yeah, you are special. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's get into your story. So you grew up Catholic, and you guys went to Mass every Sunday, but did that have an effect on you? Like, were you a believer?
I was not. It certainly had an effect on me that I disliked it, and I was very much resenting religion. But no, there was not really a life conviction there at all.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Vanessa. So you went on a trip to somewhere very tropical, and you met this woman who seemingly transformed your life. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so my brother and I went on the Caribbean island of St. Martin, and at the time we were simply, I was an atheist, and I was trying to find my own happiness, and so this was a pleasant vacation to contribute to that. And then this one day we stopped, we had to come back to the house we were staying at, and we decided to hitchhike. This was the first time I ever did this, and then this car of tourists from the U.S. stopped by, and they were not even asking to pick us up. They were asking for directions. And as it turns out, they were going to the hotel that was next door to our house on the island. And so we just jumped in and said, well, we'll show you where it is if you drop us off. And that was the beginning of a relationship that ended up, taking me. So in the Caribbean, we had a bit of a fling there, and then turned into a long-distance relationship when we left the island.
Okay, wow. So from that encounter, though, you went on a journey of disproving the existence of God, because she said that she believed in God.
Yes, it was really the big hurdle between us, and I was motivated to make this work somehow and to try to remove that hurdle. I started to consider the claims of Christianity. If I'm going to be explaining why she should stop, I started to understand what is even claimed, and that got me on a quest to investigate and to ultimately change my mind, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, after several months of analyzing the Bible, a shoulder injury actually led you into a church. So you decided to go to a church service. And something really strange, and I would say, I'm sure you would, something supernatural happened that day. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I visited that church and tried to see what those Christians do when they get together. And I was very uncomfortable. It seemed like even attending a church was an intellectual suicide, and I was terrified that anybody would see me. So I tried to not connect with anybody. I sat down and watched the sermon, and then when the service was wrapping up, I jumped on my feet trying to escape, making sure that I don't connect with anyone. And then when I arrived to the back door to leave, I opened the door and I was caught by a blast of chills in my stomach that went up in my chest and grabbed me by the throat. And I was frozen on the doorstep. And I heard myself thinking, this is ridiculous. I do have to figure this out. And so I turned around and I went straight to the head pastor and I introduced myself, the very thing I was trying not to do.
Oh my gosh. And you and that pastor developed a relationship, right?
Yeah, it's very much so. So his name was Robert. He was a very friendly guy who we connected, and he thought, you know, I can talk to you. I'm very happy to tell you a little bit what we believe and what Christianity looks like. And so for a number of weeks, I would return to see him and to discuss some of my intellectual objections to Christianity. And he would present his own faith and point me to the Bible. It was a very, very fruitful set of conversations with him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a major hurdle for you intellectually was the cross. You just wondered, why did Jesus have to die on the cross? What did God reveal to you about that?
Yeah, so this was something I was reading in the New Testament, and it was plainly stated there, and Robert was guiding me through this, but somehow, and for Christians today, so it seems almost comical that, I mean, this is the base of the Christian faith, but for me, I didn't understand the connection, and I needed God to reveal this to me, and the way that he did so was by reactivating my conscience, because at the same time that I was investigating the claims of of Christianity, I had come to commit some really immoral things that involved cheating on Vanessa and with aggravating circumstances. And I had suppressed it, denied it, lied, and then God has simply taken this and just reactivated my conscience. He showed me in my face, and I was afflicted with guilt.
Wow.
And this crushing weight of guilt is the place in which finally the message clicked, and I realized, well, this is what I've been reading about. The Bible tells us that we're not good, that we are sinners, and it matched my experience. And I realized, yes, the cross makes sense, and this is Jesus paying the price for me, for that. And so I placed my faith in Jesus, and the gospel came to life. I really sensed a freeing of my guilt, and I had encountered the forgiveness of the living God.
That's amazing. Well, let's go back to your relationship with Vanessa. So you had this encounter, you finally understood the cross, why Jesus died, you asked him into your life. What happened with you and Vanessa?
Yeah, so afterwards, I became a Christian through this. I confessed to God, and I felt I needed to confess to her as well. So I won't spoil all the story, the details of the story. They're all in my book, Confessions of a French Atheist.
Yeah.
But essentially, I thought that I was supposed to move and then be in the US. So I found a job in New York. Then I was working in finance, so I found a job on Wall Street. I thought this was God's plan for my life. I left everything I had in France, moved there. And then in the end, it turns out our relationship was really not working. And so we broke up. And I was wondering, well, what was God's plan through all of this?
Yeah.
But it was redeemed eventually. This is how I got into thinking very deeply and providing answers about my faith to my family in France. And then ended up in seminary and studying those things a bit seriously. And then eventually met my wife.
Yes. And you guys have 5 children.
Yes.
So they took the commandment seriously to be fruitful and multiply.
Yes, there was not very hard obedience there, but this is very much an ending to my story that I would never have written the story like this, but it's a pleasure to tell it in my book, and I'm very happy with the way that things have turned out.
Yeah, such a beautiful story. Well, you say accepting the gospel is not just an intellectual process, but it's something so much more. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, because much of my struggles initially were intellectual about accepting the existence of God, the possibility of miracles. And so I came to grips with answering those questions, and I explain a little bit in the book how I came to resolve those things intellectually. But becoming a Christian is not just a changing of one's mind intellectually. There's a full turning to Jesus in repentance and faith, and that is a very existential, it's an experience that I thankfully got to live by God's grace. And that's something that I invite people to consider, that there is the intellectual objections, and they should definitely resolve those. So look into the arguments, look into the good reasons we have for believing in the Bible, but also seek the life-changing experience of encountering Jesus and receiving the forgiveness that he gives in the gospel.
It's a head and a heart connection.
Absolutely.
Well, what are you doing now? Besides being a father to 5 children, how can people learn more about you and what you're doing?
Multiple lives. So I am a Christian philosopher, so I do lecture on the various topics surrounding the Christian faith. So I do write online. If they can spell my name, they will find some of my writings there. I teach, I speak at conferences, but I'm also still an engineering manager in the computer science industry. So that's a bit of what I'm up to today.
All right, Guillaume, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for this book. I know it's going to encourage a lot of people.
Thank you so much. It's a blessing.
Of course. All right, guys. Well, you can read more about Guillaume's conversion in his brand new book. It's called Confessions of a French Atheist, and it's available nationwide. Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Key. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so we can reach more people with encouraging content like you just watched, and so you never miss a beat. See you next time, and God bless.